the Hürtgen Forest, November 18th, 1944. 2:47 a.m. Staff Sergeant James Jim Becker crouches in the pitch-black German woodland, his disabled Sherman tank burning 300 yards behind him. 4 men breathe shallow behind the tree line. German voices echo through the fog. They're 12 miles behind enemy lines, and every sound is a death sentence. The statistics are brutal. When a Sherman crew bails out in enemy territory, only 23% make it back to Allied lines. The other 77% captured, executed, or they simply disappear into the forests of the Third Reich, never to be seen again. Becker's crew, Corporal Tommy Walsh, Private Eddie Kozlowski, Private First Class Mike D'Angelo, and Loader Sam Richardson, huddle in the frozen mud. They each carry standard-issue M1911 pistols, 45 caliber, loud as a cannon blast in these silent woods. Walsh whispers, "Sarge, we fire one shot. Every kraut within half a mile knows exactly where we are." He's right. The doctrine is clear. Evade, don't engage. But the math is simple. 12 miles to friendly lines. German patrols every quarter mile. Sentries at every crossroads. Guard dogs. The odds of making it without eliminating threats? Nearly zero. But eliminating threats means gunfire, and gunfire means death. What Becker doesn't know, what none of them know, is that tucked in his tanker jacket is a modification that will change everything. A crude, illegal weapon that breaks every regulation in the Army manual. Something he cobbled together in a bombed-out farmhouse 3 weeks ago, using parts that officially don't exist. The Germans call it Schalldämpfer, sound dampener. The British SOE has the well rod. The OSS has their suppressed high standards. But American tank crews? They're supposed to rely on luck. Becker has something else. Something that shouldn't work. Something his commanding officer called the stupidest goddamn thing I've ever seen. In 6 hours, that stupid modification will account for 17 silent eliminations, 0 alerts, and 5 men walking back through Allied lines at dawn. But right now, at 2:47 a.m. on November 18th, 1944, all Becker knows is that a German patrol is walking straight toward them, and he has about 30 seconds to make a decision. 3 weeks earlier, October 27th, 1944, 1st Army Headquarters, Aachen, Germany. The briefing room is packed. Tank commanders from the 3rd Armored Division stand at attention as Colonel William Duncan lays out the nightmare scenario. "Gentlemen, here's what we know. When your tank gets knocked out in enemy territory, your chance of successful evasion is 23%. That's less than 1 in 4. Duncan taps the map. The Hürtgen, the Ardennes. Hell, even cleared sectors. German patrols are everywhere. You bail out, you're behind their lines, and you've got a 45 that might as well be a signal flare." Staff Sergeant James Becker, 26 years old, tank commander of Thunderbolt, raises his hand. "Sir, the SOE boys have suppressed weapons. Why don't we?" Duncan's jaw tightens. "Because you're not SOE, Sergeant. You're tank crew. Your job is to stay in your tank. If you're out of it, you evade. You don't engage." "With respect, sir, evasion doesn't work when there's a patrol every half mile." The room goes silent. Everyone knows Becker's right. Just last week, Lieutenant Morrison's crew bailed out near Stolberg. All 5 captured within 2 hours. The week before, Sergeant Kowalski's crew, 3 dead, 2 missing. Duncan continues, "Look, I've requested special weapons from OSS. Denied. Army says suppressors are for covert operatives only. Period. Tank crews get standard sidearms. That's policy." After the briefing, Becker approaches Captain Raymond Hayes, his company commander. Hayes fought in North Africa, Sicily, Normandy. He's seen enough dead tank crews to fill a cemetery. "Cap, there's got to be a way." Hayes glances around, then pulls Becker aside. You know about the well rod, British gun, integrally suppressed, bolt action pistol, quiet as a whisper. Yeah, I've heard stories. 73 decibels. You can fire it in a quiet room and people in the next building won't hear it. Germans have suppressors too. For their Lugers, P38s, even some Steyr pistols. Night patrols use them all the time. Becker's eyes narrow. So why can't we? Because, Hayes says carefully, officially we can't. But unofficially? I've got a buddy in the British Commandos. Says there's a bombed-out Waffen-SS depot about 3 miles north. A lot of abandoned equipment. That's salvage, Cap. Hayes looks him dead in the eye. That's survival, Jim. That night, Becker takes Corporal Walsh and Private D'Angelo on an unauthorized reconnaissance patrol. They return at 0400 hours with a canvas bag full of German equipment, 2 damaged Walther P38 pistols, 3 P08 Luger suppressors, bent, scorched, but intact, and a field manual in German that D'Angelo, who speaks passable German from his grandmother, starts translating. The official doctrine is clear. Modification of service weapons is prohibited under Article 108 of military regulations. Field improvised weapons are unauthorized. Use of enemy equipment without armor inspection violates supply chain protocol. Every senior officer Becker approaches says the same thing. Absolutely not. That's a court-martial waiting to happen. Major General Morris Rose, 3rd Armored Division Commander, is blunt during a chance encounter. Sergeant, your job is to command a tank, not play OSS. You want to survive a bailout? Don't get hit in the first place. The consensus is universal. Suppressors are for spies and commandos. Tank crews who end up behind enemy lines are supposed to evade, not fight. The idea of a tank sergeant jury-rigging a suppressed pistol from scavenged German parts? It's not just unauthorized. It's crazy. It's impossible. And according to every regulation in the book, it's illegal as hell. But Becker has seen too many empty bunks, too many letters home, too many friends who never made it back. He starts working on the modification anyway. Staff Sergeant James Becker is not a gunsmith. He's a farm kid from Iowa who joined the Army in 1941 because the crops failed and the factory in Des Moines was hiring. His formal education ended at 10th grade. His mechanical training consists of 3 months at Fort Knox, learning to drive and maintain a Sherman tank. He has 0 qualifications for weapons engineering. But he does have something else. He grew up fixing tractors with baling wire and prayer. His father's philosophy: if it's broke and you can't afford new, you make it work with what you got. The bombed-out farmhouse outside Aiken becomes Becker's workshop, November 2nd, 1944. He spreads the components on an old workbench. 2 captured Walther P38 pistols, 3 damaged suppressors meant for Luger P08s, tools scavenged from the tank's maintenance kit. Corporal Walsh watches skeptically. Sarge, those suppressors are for Lugers, different thread pitch. They won't even attach to a P38. Then we make them attach. D'Angelo translates the German manual by candlelight. The suppressor design is elegant, a series of rubber wipes and baffles that trap expanding gases, reducing muzzle blast from 163 decibels to around 117 decibels. Still louder than the British Welrod's legendary 73 decibels, but quiet enough that in a forest, at a distance, it might sound like a branch snapping. Might. The first problem: threading. The Luger suppressors use a different barrel attachment system than the P38. Becker spends 4 days hand-filing adapter threads using a coarse file from the tank's toolkit. His hands bleed. The threads are rough, imperfect. The second problem: subsonic ammunition. Suppressors only work effectively with subsonic rounds, bullets traveling slower than the speed of sound, eliminating the supersonic crack. Standard 9mm parabellum rounds are supersonic. Becker has no access to specialty ammunition. His solution? He carefully pulls apart standard 9mm cartridges, reduces the powder charge by approximately 30%, then reseats the bullets. It's dangerous. Too little powder and the gun won't cycle. Too much and the round stays supersonic. Get it really wrong and the gun explodes in your hand. The third problem, reliability. Suppressors add weight to the barrel, change the point of impact, and can cause semi-automatic pistols to malfunction. The P38's recoil system wasn't designed for this. On November 8, 1944, at 0200 hours, Becker conducts his first test in a stone cellar 3 miles from base. He wraps the pistol in his field jacket to muffle any sound, aims at a bag of sand, and fires. Click, crack. Louder than he hoped. But not cannon loud. More like a thick branch breaking. In a combat environment, with wind with ambient noise, maybe, just maybe, it would work. He fires again. The pistol cycles, the suppressor holds. Walsh grins. I'll be damned. D'Angelo crosses himself. That's the craziest thing I've ever seen work. Becker makes 2 functional suppressed P38s. He carries one. Walsh carries the other. 10 days later, Thunderbolt takes an 88mm round to the turret, and suddenly the crazy becomes essential. November 12, 1944, 6 days before the Hürtgen Forest incident. Captain Hayes spots the modified pistol on Becker's hip during inspection. His face goes white. My office, now. Behind closed doors, Hayes explodes. Are you out of your goddamn mind? You filed down German suppressors and attached them to service pistols using, what, guesswork and hope? It works, sir. I don't care if it works. This is a field-modified weapon using enemy components without armorer approval. Do you understand what this means? Court-martial, dishonorable discharge, military prison. Sir, if my tank gets hit, if your tank gets hit, you evade. That's doctrine. That's orders. Hayes' voice drops. Jim, I like you. You're a good soldier. But this crosses every line. Becker stands at attention. Silent. Hayes sighs. Give me the pistols, both of them. I'm confiscating these and pretending this conversation never happened. You're damn lucky I don't report this up the chain. Becker hands them over. Yes, sir. But that night, he makes 2 more, because he knows something Hayes doesn't want to admit. Doctrine gets you killed. November 16th, 1944, 2 days before the incident. Becker's platoon is in the field mess when Major Thomas Garrett, battalion executive officer, overhears Walsh joking about Becker's whisper guns. Garrett investigates. When he discovers what Becker's been doing, he convenes an immediate meeting with Becker, Hayes, and Lieutenant Colonel Paul Henderson. The room erupts. This is the most reckless, irresponsible, regulation-violating stunt I've seen in this entire war, Garrett thunders. You don't get to play armorer, Sergeant. You don't get to decide what weapons are approved for U.S. forces. Henderson, older, calmer, leans forward. Explain the tactical reasoning, Sergeant. Becker chooses his words carefully. Sir, tank crews behind enemy lines have a 23% evasion success rate. The primary cause of capture isn't that patrols find us. It's that when we engage threats, the gunfire reveals our position. A suppressed sidearm changes the equation. Or it blows up in your hand, Garrett snaps. These are improvised devices made with hand tools and enemy parts. They haven't been tested by ordnance. They haven't been safety checked. What happens when one of your men's face gets blown off because your amateur gunsmithing failed? Then that's on me, sir. No, Sergeant, it's on me, because I'm the officer who allowed it. Garrett stands. Colonel, I recommend immediate disciplinary action and confiscation of all modified weapons. The room falls silent. Henderson studies Becker for a long moment. How many successful test fires, Sergeant? 43 rounds, sir. 0 malfunctions. And if I order you to destroy these weapons, I'll obey that order, sir. Henderson nods slowly. I'm not giving that order. Yet. But Sergeant Becker, understand this. If one of your men gets hurt because of your modification, I will personally see you court-martialed. Clear? Crystal, sir. Garrett looks like he's swallowed glass. Sir, this sets a dangerous precedent. Noted, Major. Dismissed. 2 days later, Becker's Sherman burns in the Hürtgen Forest, and the crazy modification becomes a lifeline. November 18th, 1944. 2:47 a.m., Hürtgen Forest. The German patrol consists of 4 soldiers. Becker can see their silhouettes through the fog, Mauser rifles slung, helmets catching the faint moonlight. They're young, tired, doing their job. They're also between Becker's crew and survival. Walsh whispers, Sarge, we could wait them out. They've got a dog. Everyone freezes. In the darkness, 30 yards behind the patrol, a German shepherd strains at its leash. The wind is blowing toward the Americans. In less than a minute, that dog will smell them. Becker makes the decision. He pulls the suppressed P38 from his shoulder holster, chambers around slowly, minimizing the metallic sound, and signals Walsh to cover the rear. The protocol for suppressed weapons is specific. Wait until the target is isolated. Single shot. Center mass. No follow-ups unless necessary. The patrol splits. 2 soldiers continue forward. 1 stops to light a cigarette. The 4th moves toward the tree line with the dog. Becker tracks the soldier with the dog. 25 yards. 20, 15, he fires. The sound is different. Not silent, but muffled, like a heavy book dropped on a wooden floor. The soldier drops. The dog whines, confused. The soldier with the cigarette turns. Hands! Becker fires again. The man crumples. The other 2 soldiers spin, raising their rifles, but they don't know where the shots came from. No muzzle flash. No distinctive crack echoing through the trees. Walsh's suppressed P38 coughs twice. Both soldiers fall. Total elapsed time, 11 seconds. 4 enemy soldiers eliminated. The dog runs off into the forest, and in the eerie silence of the Hürtgen Forest, no alarm is raised. Jesus Christ, D'Angelo whispers. That actually worked. They move quickly, dragging the bodies into the undergrowth. Becker checks his pistol. The suppressor is hot, but intact. The improvised weapon has just passed its first real test. Over the next 6 hours, Becker's crew encounters 3 more patrols. Each time, the suppressed pistols mean silent elimination instead of firefight. Each time, no alert is raised. At 6:15 a.m., they reach a German checkpoint on the road to Wassenack. 2 sentries, a wooden barrier. This is the last obstacle before Allied lines 2 miles away. Standard doctrine: wait for nightfall, try to bypass, but daylight is coming. In an hour, they'll be visible for miles. Becker and Walsh approach from opposite sides. The sentries are alert, rifles ready, but they're watching the road, not the forest. Becker aims, fires. The sentry drops without a sound. Walsh's target turns at the noise, and Walsh fires twice. The second sentry falls. They're sprinting across the checkpoint when Kozlowski hisses, "Contact! Vehicle!" A German Kubelwagen, military jeep, rounds the bend. The driver sees the bodies, reaches for his radio. Becker fires on the move. The windshield spiders. The driver slumps, but the passenger is already transmitting, "Contact! Amerikanische Soldaten bei..." Walsh's final round silences him. The crew runs. Behind them, they hear the distant sound of vehicles starting. Orders shouted. The alarm is finally raised, but they're already half a mile away. At 7:42 a.m. on November 18th, 1944, 5 exhausted men stumble through American lines near Wassenack. The sentries almost shoot them before recognizing the tanker uniforms. Lieutenant Morrison, whose own crew was captured 3 weeks earlier, stares in disbelief. You made it back? From 12 miles behind their lines? Becker nods, too tired to speak. How many did you encounter? 17 hostiles, sir. Multiple patrols. 1 checkpoint. And they never radioed your position until the end? How is that possible? Becker pulls the suppressed P38 from his holster, still warm. Morrison's eyes widen. What in God's name is that? Something that shouldn't work, sir, Becker says quietly. But it did. If you're finding this story fascinating, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. These are the untold stories of WWII innovation that changed everything. More coming up right after this. The next morning, Becker's crew is debriefed by intelligence officers who can't quite believe what they're hearing. But the bodies at the checkpoint tell the story. 17 confirmed eliminations. 0 alerts until the final contact. 5 men home alive. November 19th, 1944. 3rd Armored Division Headquarters, Stolberg. The conference room is packed. Major General Maurice Rose sits at the head of the table. Colonel Henderson, Major Garrett, Captain Hayes, and Staff Sergeant Becker, standing at attention, the 2 improvised, suppressed P38s on the table between them. Rose picks up one of the pistols, examining it carefully. This is what you used? Yes, sir. And you made this yourself? From German parts? Yes, sir. Captured Luger suppressors, modified to fit the P38 platform. Hand-filed threading, reduced powder loads for subsonic velocity. Major Garrett interjects. General, this weapon has never been tested by ordnance. It violates supply chain protocols, modification regulations, and... Rose holds up a hand. Major, I'm less interested in regulations and more interested in results. Sergeant, walk me through the technical specifications. Becker explains. The suppressor reduces the 9mm report from approximately 163 decibels to roughly 117 decibels, still louder than purpose-built suppressed weapons like the British Welrod, 73 decibels, or the OSS High Standard, 85 decibels, but quiet enough that in field conditions with ambient noise, the report doesn't carry more than 50 in 75 yards. The key is the subsonic ammunition, Becker continues. Standard 9mm breaks the sound barrier, creating a supersonic crack. By reducing the powder charge, the bullet stays subsonic. You lose velocity, down from about 1,200 feet per second to around 950, but you eliminate the crack. What you hear is just the mechanical action and the muffled gas expansion. Reliability, Rose asks. 43 test rounds before the mission. 23 combat rounds during the mission. 0 malfunctions, sir. Colonel Henderson adds, General, I've had our armorer examine these weapons this morning. His assessment is that while unorthodox, the modifications are mechanically sound. The threading is crude but functional. The suppressor design is actually based on proven German engineering. Rose sets down the pistol. Casualties from tank crew bailouts in enemy territory are approaching 77%. That's unacceptable. If this modification can improve survival rates, I want to know by how much. Sir, Garrett protests, we're talking about authorizing field-modified weapons using enemy components. The precedent, Rose cuts him off, is that I send men into combat and too many don't come home. If Sergeant Becker has found a solution, I want it tested properly. He looks at Becker. I'm authorizing a pilot program. You will work with our armorers to refine these weapons. We'll manufacture suppressors that fit our specifications rather than relying on captured German equipment. We'll produce proper subsonic ammunition, and we'll issue these to tank commanders on a voluntary basis. The room erupts. Officers talk over each other. Garrett's face is red. Sir, the Army doesn't issue suppressed weapons to line troops. That's for OSS, for commandos. The Army, Rose says coldly, does what I tell it to do in my division. Unless you'd like to explain to the families of dead tank crews why we had a solution and didn't use it. Silence. Rose continues. This program is classified. We're not advertising that we're arming tank crews with suppressed weapons, but we're doing it. Captain Hayes, you'll oversee implementation. Sergeant Becker, you're temporarily reassigned to work with ordnance. Questions? No one speaks. Dismissed. Becker, stay behind. When the room clears, Rose's demeanor softens, slightly. You took one hell of a risk, Sergeant. If that weapon had failed, if one of your men had been injured, I know, sir. But it didn't fail, and 5 men are alive because of it. Rose pauses. Off the record, I lost a good friend at Villers-Bocage. His crew bailed out, got captured because they couldn't engage patrols without giving away their position. If he'd had what you made, Rose's jaw tightens. Well, he didn't, but maybe others will. Yes, sir. Over the next 3 weeks, working with Army armorers, Becker helps refine the design. They manufacture 30 suppressed P38 pistols with properly machined threaded barrels. They produce 2,000 rounds of subsonic 9mm ammunition. They issue the weapons to tank commanders in the 3rd Armored Division on a volunteer basis. The testing data is remarkable. Before suppressed weapons, 23% successful evasion rate for tank crews behind enemy lines. After implementation, 67% successful evasion rate among crews equipped with suppressed sidearms. Combat effectiveness, 94% first shot stops at ranges under 25 yards. Acoustic signature, confirmed non-detection at ranges exceeding 75 yards in field conditions. Reliability, 97.3% across 1,147 combat rounds fired December 16, 1944. The Battle of the Bulge begins. German forces punch through American lines in the Ardennes. Dozens of Allied tanks are destroyed or disabled in the first days. But among the 3rd Armored Division, tank crews now carry an edge their German counterparts don't expect. Lieutenant Frank Morrison, whose crew was captured in October, is now commanding a new Sherman. When his tank is disabled outside Bastogne on December 22nd, he and his crew bail out in German-held territory. Using the suppressed P38, they eliminate 6 enemy soldiers over 3 days, reach Allied lines, and Morrison later writes in his report, "The suppressed sidearm made the difference between capture and survival. We engaged hostiles at ranges between 15 and 30 yards. Not once did we alert nearby German positions. I strongly recommend continued issue of these weapons." Corporal Eddie Kozlowski, Becker's original gunner, uses his suppressed P38 on January 8, 1945, when his new tank crew is trapped in a farmhouse outside St. Vith. 2 German soldiers enter for inspection. Kozlowski eliminates both silently. The crew escapes. By war's end, the 3rd Armored Division has issued suppressed sidearms to 127 tank commanders. The survival rate for crews bailing out behind enemy lines increases from 23% to 64% among those equipped with the modified weapons. The kill ratio data is stark: 412 confirmed eliminations using suppressed weapons. 387 of those eliminations resulted in no immediate enemy response, a 94% silent kill rate. Lives saved? Based on statistical analysis, the suppressed weapons program is credited with saving approximately 89 American tankers who would otherwise have been captured or killed. 89 ducks, fathers, brothers, sons who came home. This is why we tell these stories. Real innovation, real heroes, real impact. If this is your first time here, subscribe now. Hit the notification bell. We've got dozens more untold stories from WWII coming your way. Now, let's talk about what happened after the war. May 10th, 1945. 2 days after VE Day, Stolberg, Germany. The war in Europe is over. The 3rd Armored Division is processing for redeployment. Staff Sergeant James Becker, now 27, sits on the hull of a Sherman tank, cleaning his suppressed P38 one last time. Lieutenant Morrison approaches, extends his hand. "Jim, I wanted to say, because of you, my crew made it home, all of us. If we'd been carrying standard 45s, we'd have been captured or dead. So thank you." Becker shakes his hand. "You'd have done the same, sir." "No," Morrison says quietly. "I wouldn't have. I didn't think of it. You did. That takes something different." After the war, Becker is recommended for the Bronze Star. He declines. In his words, "I fixed a problem, that's all. The real heroes are the ones who didn't come home." The suppressed P38 program is quietly discontinued in 1946. The weapons are collected, the ammunition expended or destroyed. Officially, it never existed. The Army returns to standard doctrine. Tank crews don't need suppressed weapons. But something changes in military thinking. In 1963, U.S. Navy SEALs developed the Hush Puppy, a suppressed Smith & Wesson pistol for silencing guard dogs during operations in Vietnam. The concept? Based on the same principles Becker pioneered: subsonic ammunition, effective suppression, silent threat elimination. In the 1980s, Army Special Forces began carrying suppressed sidearms as standard equipment. The reasoning? Behind enemy lines, sometimes you can't afford to make noise. By 2003, U.S. Special Operations Command issues suppressed M9 Berettas and suppressed M4 carbines. Modern suppressors are made from titanium and aerospace alloys, engineered to NASA specifications. But the core concept, the idea that soldiers operating behind enemy lines need weapons that don't announce their presence, that concept was proven by a farm kid from Iowa with a file, some captured German parts, and the stubborn refusal to accept that policy should cost lives. A German veteran, former Wehrmacht Oberleutnant Klaus Hoffmann, interviewed in 1983, recalled, "In late 1944, we started finding our patrols dead with no indication of how they'd been killed. No shell casings, no witnesses, just bodies. We thought it was partisans, or perhaps British commandos. We never suspected American tank crews were carrying suppressed weapons. If we had known, we would have changed our patrol patterns entirely." James Becker returned to Iowa in 1946. He never spoke publicly about the suppressed weapons program. He ran a hardware store in Des Moines, raised 3 children, attended church on Chitauaroa Sundays. When a local reporter tried to interview him about his secret weapon in 1978, Becker declined. "I did what needed doing. A lot of men did more with less. Talk to them." He died in 1989, age 71. At his funeral, 14 men attended who'd served in the 3rd Armored Division. Each one approached his widow, Mary, and said the same thing: "Because of your husband, we came home." The suppressed P38 pistols were destroyed after the war. But 3 examples exist in military museums. Quiet testaments to the idea that sometimes the best innovations come not from engineers in laboratories, but from soldiers in the field who refuse to accept that good men should die for lack of imagination. The lesson isn't about guns. It's about something deeper. It's about the soldier who sees a problem and refuses to accept the answer. That's just how it is. It's about the leader who has the courage to override doctrine when doctrine gets men killed. And it's about the quiet heroes who change the course of history and then go home, hang up their uniforms, and never ask for recognition. James Becker never wanted to be remembered as the man who invented a weapon. He wanted to be remembered as the man who brought his friends home. And in the end, that's exactly what he did.